On this week's Gridiron Report, we have a disappointing effort loss from the Lions, an upcoming playoff rematch against the Commanders, the debut of a new segment, and Grit of the Week. And it's all brought to you by Pins and Aces, our favorite spot for all golf apparel needs. Use promo code GRIT for 21% off any product at pinsandaces.com. Let's get into it.
In the heart of the city where the lights grow dim, grit and grind every inch, every rim, from the underdogs rising to the legends that win. It's the grit iron report, let the games begin. Every highlight's a journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retire, grit iron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on blast, beats thundering loud, champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The grit iron report, where the stories are.
Welcome to the Gridiron Report, your Lions First All Detroit Sports podcast presented by Mic Drop Studios. Today is Wednesday, November 5th, and hand up, we might have gotten a little bit too cocky about the Lions. If you listened to last week's episode, I think Kyle and I both assumed this was going to be an ass whooping, and I think we had every right to believe that. I mean, the Vikings were in a tailspin, JJ McCarthy was starting once again, the Lions were getting healthy, and it just absolutely blew up in our face. And like I said in the intro, I think it was more so, in my opinion, more of an effort thing, but it blew up in our face nonetheless. The Lions lose 24-27 on Sunday. It was a sad one. It was a sad Sunday.
Yeah, dude, this one sucked so much. This game sucked so much ass for like so many different reasons. But I think firstly, yeah, you mentioned it. We were so wrong. At least on Sunday, we were so absolutely wrong about JJ McCarthy. And granted, he didn't light the world on fire, but he made every single throw when he needed to most, including just the dagger with a minute left in the fourth quarter to seal it. But yeah, the kid also made made moves with his legs too, big time. Rushing touchdown. I think it's always tough. It's always a big kick in the dick when JJ McCarthy just dog walks you on national television. I know it wasn't a primetime game, but it felt like it. It felt like this is a spot where the Lions, everyone was watching. The Lions were supposed to roll. It was supposed to be a blowout, and it kind of was a blowout for a second, but just the other way. So yeah, this game sucked.
It definitely felt more lopsided than the final score. The final score ended up being, like you said, JJ ended up hitting Jalen Naylor.
Their speedy Naylor.
Speedy Naylor, MSU Spartan. Yeah, exactly. He ended up hitting him to kind of seal the game. So we have that to get into. We'll have obviously go down through the offense. We'll go to the defense, even some special teams things because they were also piss poor on Sunday. Like we mentioned, then we'll cut to a quick break. We'll go to a preview of the upcoming matchup against the Commanders, and then we have some fun things towards the end, a new segment and Grit of the Week. So I'm starting with the offense because that's where I think most of my gripes are with the offense. And you just mentioned like JJ being able to run and stuff, and there was obviously some issues with the defense, but like the most frustrating part for me was this offense, and it all starts with Johnny Morton. I think this was finally the game in which I think the shine is off. Like we started the season, at first the question was like, can we do it without Ben Johnson? We had the game flat against the Packers, that sucked. But then we kind of came back and like we had an episode in which we were talking about all these records we were breaking, and the offensive efficiency numbers were actually a lot better than they were with Ben Johnson. So for a few weeks there, we're like, okay, Dan Campbell was always involved in this offense. We'll be okay without Ben Johnson. Johnny Morton will be okay. And I think this was a game that just like it all just came crashing down. I am so frustrated with the Johnny Morton play calling. Like I think back to back when Anthony Lynn was calling the plays a few years ago, and Dan Campbell stripped him of the play calling abilities. I think it was like week 9. I don't know if it's going to be. I hope it's like that, and Dan Campbell takes the reins like that. I don't think he's going to. But the play calling was terrible. It was the amount of swings and screen passes that Johnny Morton was calling over and over and over again. It was literally going to make me throw up.
Yeah, I think you're probably hitting the panic button a little too much as far as like having Dan Campbell take over this offense. I mean, this offense is still a top 10 offense in the league. Look at points per game, look at yards. They're still moving the ball. They obviously struggled on Sunday, but I mean, a 5-3 team, you're never going to see a 5-3 team make a switch like that. So yeah, if you're looking for that, it's not going to happen. So I just wanted to say that. But yeah, the offense, to your point, could not get into a single rhythm the entire day, the entire game. I was just thinking like just drive after drive, like God. And of course, I mean they did score some points in the game, but like just overall, they couldn't do shit. It started with the run game. It starts with the offensive line. I thought the offensive line played horribly. Run game, pass protection. I mean, Jared was on his ass all game. 5 sacks. The Vikings, and huge credit to the Vikings. Huge credit to Brian Flores, and yeah, just their game plan, because it clearly worked. They were able to get to Jared at will. 5 sacks, 11 total hits on Jared Goff. Basically pressures all day, and yeah, it started with the Lions' run game, just inability to run the ball. That really sucks to see for a team that prides itself on running the ball. They had 20 carries for 65 yards total between Monty and Gibbs. That is a huge red flag for me.
Yeah, it comes off of the heels of, again, we were getting healthy. We had Taylor Decker a few weeks ago, I think against the Buccaneers. He looked terrible, and then he was out with an injury, or before he was out with an injury, he was back. We figured after the bye week he was going to get back, be healthy, look good. He looked flat out terrible. Like, he looked like I don't know if he's still injured. I don't know if Father Time is just catching up to him. I don't know what's going on with him. He looked terrible. You had Penei Sewell, who went down with an injury. We'll touch on his injury, and when we get to our preview in segment 2 here. You had Christian Mahogany go down with an injury, not said to be season ending, but it is expected to be long term. So yeah, you're right. It all starts with the offensive line. Offensive line was absolutely terrible. And Brian Flores is a great defensive coordinator. It just seems like for whatever reason, the Lions have always had his number. Jared Goff plays pretty well. And so that's why I put a lot of onus on Johnny Morton. Johnny Morton wasn't prepared for the Brian Flores defense. And while you're right, it probably is premature to strip the play calling from Johnny Morton. It frustrates me so much when I see, numbers like these. So in second and long, so second down and 7+, around 7+, the Lions are second in passing, a passing rate, meaning we don't ever pass it on second and long, but we're 9th in overall success. So we don't pass it in second and long, but it works. We have first in yards after catch when we do pass it in second and long, and 4th in explosive plays. So again, we don't pass in second and long, but when we do, it works. Now on the opposite side of that, in second and long, we are first in running in second and long, meaning we constantly run in second and long, yet we're 30th in success rate. So it's a complete opposite. We continuously run on second and long, and it never works. And the vice versa, when we do pass, it works. So like it's just overall play calling. I think you have all these weapons, all these tools, and it's hard to get anything going, to get in any sort of rhythm when your offensive line is playing so terribly. But that just kind of comes down to Brian Flores out scheming Johnny Morton, and so that's why I was frustrated with that. But I mean, not to be so much of a Debbie Downer, I thought the receiving core actually played pretty well. You had Sammy Ballgame, Sam Laporta, and Amon-Ra St. Brown both went for about 100 yards. JMO had 66. JMO and Sammy Ballgame both had a touchdown. So like the receiving core actually played pretty well. There was absolutely no running game to this.
Yeah, that JMO anytime touchdown. It hit late. It finally hit. So hopefully maybe some of y'all tailed that and made up for that shitty game with maybe just a little bit of cash. But yeah, dude. Yeah, I will never understand when an offensive coordinator will run a run play on 2nd and 10 and get like 2-3 yards. Best case you get like 4 or 5. But really, if you throw the ball on first down and get stopped, or God forbid you run the ball on first down, get stopped, throw the ball again. Like, this team is so good, and these wide receivers and Sam Laporta as well. They're so good. Even the backside of the backfield. Like, your success rate on 2nd and 10 is just so much higher throwing the ball. Like, you're gonna hit. If you throw an incompletion on first down, you're more than likely gonna throw a completion on second. This team's just too good not to. So yeah, I'll never understand that. It's not just the Lions. I mean, I could count on if I had $1 for every time the Michigan State Spartans ran the ball on 2nd and 10 just to make it a 3rd and 8, I would I'd be a billionaire. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't want to hit the alarm, the sound the alarms too much right now. But everything I saw from that offense on Sunday, I am panicking. And yeah, you talked about some injuries on the offensive line, and hopefully Penei Sewell, it's not super serious and he'll get back in there. Mahogany, who's had a decent season at best. He hasn't been great, but he hasn't been horrible. Having him gone, that's huge. So I think I have no choice, Tyler, but to hit the panic button.
I'm absolutely smashing it. Just as a sneak preview to our new segment that we're gonna unveil later in the show. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too much on Johnny Morton, but you look at in just 8 games this season in which Johnny Morton has been at the helm of this offense, he's now responsible for 2 of the worst offensive efficiency games in the Dan Campbell at Ford Field era. So it took him just 8 games to take 2 of the worst offensive efficient games since like in 4 or 5 years. Literally 1 week after we on the show, and Dan Campbell at the press conference talked about how they need to be better on third down. They shit the bed again. We're now 0 for 21 on 3rd and 10 plus this season. And I get 3rd and 10, 3rd and long. That's difficult to make up all this stuff. But when you go for it on fourth, like you can't rely too much on that. 2 of our touchdowns on Sunday came on 4th down. Like that's not sustainable. You got to be more efficient with your 2nd and longs and your 3rd downs. You got to be able to convert on those. And it's really frustrating. You know, we talked about David Montgomery, and I had mentioned on the show this past week, and I was talking in our group message, like this was going to be a game of the unusual suspects. I called it for David Montgomery. I called it for Jameson Williams. I think I might even throw Sam Laporta in there or something. I'm glad that Demo got involved. Like they had mentioned they wanted to get him more involved, and I'm glad they did. He got the early touchdown, but then he had the uncharacteristic fumble, and so like you're killing us, David Montgomery, when we're trying to get you more involved in this running game that used to be a 2-headed monster, and now it's very much a very, very good monster, and then, you know, kind of like a sideshow a little bit. Like, you can't fumble like that. And I thought like that fumble then and there really just killed any offensive ability that we had. It was all around terrible. Again, a little preview when we get to our new segment later in the show. I'll kind of go into more details on that. But yeah, the offense was terrible. I thought the special teams also terrible. I feel like every kickoff, every punt, they got insane returns. One of them was a touchdown that ended up being called back for somewhat of a ticky-tack that call there. And we had the blocked field goal. Like, it was terrible all around.
Yeah, that was a gift too. Like when they housed that, I'm like, yeah, dude, this game's so over. Mm-hmm. And yeah, luckily a phantom hold, ticky-tack hold, however you want to call it, that went in the Lions' favor. But yeah, special teams. Holy shit, that was bad, man. Yeah, like Jake Bates getting one blocked. Yeah, just so many yards that they gave up in the kick return game, even the punt return game, and those really add up. So yeah, that's a bit uncharacteristic from, you know, the Lions teams that we've known for the past couple of years who have had really good special teams. You know, Jake Bates was incredible last year and could hit from anywhere. Now he's been missing kicks, and obviously the one last week was blocked. So yeah, man, I'm definitely sounded the alarm top to bottom. Really, it's so weird. I mean, obviously it was game script, but like, you know, Gibbs only 9 carries. I think you're gonna lose every game when your superstar running back's only getting 9 carries. You know, I get that they didn't want to go back to the well; it wasn't working. But yeah, when Monty has more carries than Gibbs, I think it's a problem. When both of them are not performing, like obviously if Monty's performing, like yeah, give him, you know, keep riding the hot hand. But that certainly wasn't the case. So yeah, I thought the split was weird there. You mentioned it, the Monty fumble, just horrendous, so costly. Led to 7 points for the Vikings. So, dude, yeah, all in all, just shit game.
And before we get over to the defense, the last thing I want to say about the offense, you mentioned Gibbs and the lack of touches there. He was just as frustrating for me this past Sunday as anyone, because we talk so much about like guys like Jameson Williams when, you know, he's not necessarily getting passes and getting targets and stuff. He's still downfield blocking. Jahmyr Gibbs allowed 7 pressures on 16 pass blocking snaps. And we talked about it in the past, like how Jahmyr Gibbs randomly will be put up against and try and block guys like Myles Garrett. And like, you're not expected to be able to block a monster like Myles Garrett. But he gave up 7 pressures on 16 pass blocking snaps, which was tied for the most pressures allowed by a running back in a game since 2018. No running back this season has allowed more than 3 in a game, and he had 7. Like, you don't block, you don't rock. Like, he was terrible. One of the worst offensive linemen, and you don't even have to block that much. Just get in the guy's way and try and avoid giving up a pressure. And Gibbs was terrible. So I think, you know, we sing Gibbs' praise when he deserves it, and when he's, you know, has 180 all-purpose yards, like he definitely deserves it. But you don't block, you don't rock. He was terrible in the pass blocking game on Sunday.
Yeah, and it's not exactly his skill set. And we have seen, you know, David Montgomery get just swallowed up by linebackers blitzing as well. So I don't think it's all on Gibbs there, but yeah, multiple times just free runner, and he's going through Gibbs like, you know, a hot knife through butter. Mm-hmm. And yeah, Jared, obviously we know Jared, he's not a mobile guy. He's not going to make these guys miss after they just bully Jahmyr Gibbs. So yeah, that obviously led to sacks, but yeah, you got to clean it up, just top to bottom on offense, special teams too. But yeah, mostly offense. Just you got to clean this shit up because it's embarrassing. You walk into that game 8.5-point favorites, 9-point favorites. The line probably went to like 9.5 at one point, and you were never competitive. You were never really in that game. Giving up 14 points. We can talk about the defense. Giving up 14 points in the first quarter to this Vikings team, it's embarrassing, man.
Yeah, let's jump over to the defense because I think the defense, it was embarrassing. But like I said, for me, I was more frustrated by the offense. And that's not to say the defense played extremely well. I think the first quarter was terrible. Like you said, 14 points given up the first quarter, but then they let up 3 in the second, ended up giving up 3 in the fourth. So like they had some good quarters. They put together good quarters, take away that fourth quarter, and on top of that, I mean, the offense, like you mentioned, set the defense up for failure in some regards with the Montgomery fumble that put them immediately in the red zone. But they definitely deserve some sort of grief there. They just one takeaway, but they forced 2 of them, and then JJ ended up recovering the fumble. But like you said, I mean, we made JJ McCarthy look like an absolute rock star. And going back to his Michigan days, like he was always a guy that he, in my opinion, couldn't carry a team himself. He had a great team around him. He could, do what he can to manage it, but he was never a guy who put the team on his shoulders, and he looked fantastic. I will say I liked our secondary. I think our secondary played pretty well as much as the score might not show it. You had Justin Jefferson, who was held, I think, around 50 yards, which is really good for Justin Jefferson. He had a nasty one-handed grab in the end zone, which is like, you one-handed grabs, you can't do anything about that. Like, that's just impressive. That's just one of the best receivers in the NFL going out and making a play. You can't really do much about that. Defense generated 18 pressures on 5 sacks, which was tied for the second highest pressure rate in a game all this year. So, like, the defensive line played pretty good. Terrion Arnold had a pretty good game, 3 pass breakups and an interception. I feel like the number, like the defensive individual numbers don't look that bad, but 27 is pretty bad. I'm having a hard time understanding the connection there.
Yeah, I don't know. Some of it was game script for sure. Like that Monty fumble, leading to just an easy 7 points. There's 7 points right there out of the 27. So yeah, it's not all in the defense. I thought that to your point, keeping Justin Jefferson 6 receptions, 47 yards and a touchdown, 7, that's less than 8 yards per grab. Like that's a huge win.
You can't
take
ask for
that
anything
10
more.
times out of 10 against one of the best receivers in the game. And one of his catches was super disgusting. That probably goes, it probably hits the ground at most other players, and even for JJ, it's he's not catching that every time. So yeah, I thought they bottled him up just fine. Addison had one long grab, but that wasn't bad at all. To me it came down to the run defense, and at times the run defense was totally fine, but at times they were getting gushed. Aaron Jones, his long was 31. So yeah, he had about 9 yards per carry. A lot of it was on that one rush, but yeah, I thought that the run defense was not quite up to par, but I think overall this defense did enough to win this game, especially considering that we kind of gifted almost 7 points on the Monty fumble, in the Lions zone there. So yeah, I completely agree with you. This loss firmly on the offense, and sprinkle in the special teams too.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
You get you pretty much gave up a touchdown that was thankfully called back, but you get a kick block. Guess what? You lost by 3 points. So there's 3 points right there. That's pretty easy. So yeah, definitely special teams, certainly offense. Thought the defense did well enough. Obviously, like that last drive, stopping big two big stops on the ground, and then JJ makes a good throw. And I thought that the coverage was pretty good. I can't remember who was on that coverage to Speedy Naylor there. I thought it was pretty good. Like, McCarthy dropped it in a bucket there. There's only so much you can do, especially when you are selling out to stop the run. And yeah, so I don't know, man. This is certainly not on the defense.
Yeah, you just reminded me. So that was either, I can't recall exactly who it was. Either it was one of the newer guys in the secondary, one of the backups. Yeah. It was either Arthur Mollett, Thomas. I think it might have been Thomas Harper. So it was one of the guys that like. It's a backup. Like, I agree with you. It was pretty good coverage. It's a great play. You can't really ask for much more from your backups. But I will say, and while I agree with you that the run defense wasn't great, but all around the defense was pretty good. I want to take one grit of the week away from Alex Anzalone. I am hereby retracting one grit of the week for one of the worst plays I have seen in a long time, especially from a veteran guy. It was JJ's, it must have been in the third quarter. JJ was scrambling out about the 15, 20-yard line. It's basically Alex Anzalone who's closing in on him. It's one-on-one. Alex Anzalone takes the worst angle of pursuit and basically just watches JJ run right by him as he kind of like dives / falls at his ankles. It was it was like a high school play in which the defender doesn't really want to make contact and doesn't want to get hurt, and it's just kind of giving it the old college try, and it's like, oh no, I missed him. From a veteran guy who should not make that play. I am taking one grit of the week away from Alex Anzalone. He's lucky I don't take more.
Yeah, sustain there. Yeah, and hand up in 7th grade. I think I did that a couple times too. Just,
I definitely did.
Running back coming right at you. You're the safety. Like, oh, you dove. Give your best effort. I'm making
a business decision, dude. I got a math exam tomorrow. I'm not doing this.
Yeah, dude. I can't be concussed for this. This algebra exam. But yeah, man. That was horrible. Oh my God. Like, and it's not only that the angle was bad, it was really bad, but he just comes flying in like way out of control. And granted, that's what Anzo does. He does play at 110%. He's going a million miles an hour. And a lot of times he does make that play, but like, I feel like, this is it's a know your personnel type thing. Like, JG McCarthy is not some crazy athlete. If you take a good angle, like you're going to tackle him. Like it's not Lamar Jackson. It's not like you have to be, almost lucky to get him in space. Like you should be able to tackle JJ McCarthy in space. And yeah, JJ looked like Lamar on that play, and it was easy. I think that me or you is probably making Anzalone miss if he's going at that angle, because it's a horrendous angle too, way out of control. Yeah, it wasn't even particularly hard for JJ. He made it look easy, but. Yeah, dude, that was horrible, and it was the nail in the coffin. I think they went up 2 scores there, and they were up 2 scores for the majority of the fourth quarter until the very end there.
100%. Like I feel like there was like 2 or 3 nails in the coffin in which like you take away these 2 or 3 plays, in which they were like horrendous plays, like embarrassing plays, and you win this game. We did everything we could to be out effort and to lose this game. You take away the Montgomery fumble, take away the blocked field goal, you take away that terrible pursuit. Maybe you give one of those back because of the phantom holding that we got, gifted to us. Still, that's 2 plays. You take away those 2, and you win this game. So it was embarrassing. I'm frustrated with Dan Campbell in that, like, I feel like now it's almost getting a little bit old of him coming, the team just being like embarrassed out there. It, happened against the Packers. It happened, it has happened in times throughout his career, and him coming to the podium after the game and just saying that basically the same thing, saying like, nope, this is on me. I didn't have the boys ready. It's like, yeah, okay. Why do you keep having to come out and say that? What is going on with these? Like, I get he's doing the noble thing. He's taking it all the credit. He's taking all the blame on it. And like, I get that. But like when it has happened twice in at least one season in which we have high hopes this season, it's happened multiple times throughout his tenure. Like it's just getting a little bit old to me. It's frustrating. It was all around a bad Sunday.
And it's one thing if you don't have the team ready against Super Bowl caliber opponents like Green Bay first game of the season, or even like Kansas City. Both those on the road. Yeah. Just those are tough games. So not having a team ready against a really good opponent, you're obviously going to lose. But to come out of a bye. To come out of a fucking bye week and not be ready to play the Vikings in a down year for the Vikings, man, that's downright embarrassing. So yeah, I mean, I think obviously your head coach is going to take accountability, but like we need so much more than that. Like, I mean, where did it go wrong? And granted, I haven't necessarily seen the entire presser, so I'm sure he got more questions and broke it down more on exactly what went wrong. But yeah, we need a lot more than, hey, this was my fault, because eventually. It's not nearly enough, and I think it's not enough now. We need answers, because this is, far and away worst loss of the season. Hopefully, this is the worst loss of the season going forward. But yeah, this was embarrassing, man. This is a team that you should have blown out, and instead you got your ass kicked.
Yep. Yeah. So we're gonna take our licks. We're gonna try and move on. Thing in closing, I wanna close the book on this game, and Lions are 1-2 in the NFC North this season, right? And a year after going almost undefeated in the division. So anything final before we stop talking about this game and never mention it ever again?
Just final, kind of looking ahead. I think you bare minimum you have to go 3-1 in your next 4 opponents. It's you got at the Commanders, you got at the Eagles, Giants at home, and then on Thanksgiving you have Packers at home. I think this is an absolute 3-1 is the minimum. If you go 2-2 here, if you lose to the Eagles, if you lose to the Packers, this season is not looking great, and it's looking like a team that maybe squeaks into the playoffs at that point, because I see maybe a couple other losses on the schedule as well. So yeah, you have to take care of business. 4-0 or 3-1 minimum next 4 games, and you got to go to work.
Yep. All right, let's go to a quick break, and then when we come back, we will break down the Lions' upcoming playoff rematch against the Washington Commanders. All right, we are back with our preview. This week's upcoming matchup, Lions go to the Washington Commanders for a rematch of the playoff game last year in which the Lions were absolutely embarrassed. Before we get into the injuries coming up into this game and what we think of the overall offense, defense, everything, let's play Guess the Line. Kyle, Lions going to the Commanders. What's the line going to be?
Yeah, Lions at Commanders. No Jaden Daniels. Very obviously no Jaden Daniels. We're obviously thinking about him. That gruesome injury.
Yeah.
Hopefully he'll be just fine. Haven't heard if it's season ending or not. I'm assuming it is, but you never know. Non-throwing arm. But regardless, yeah, you lost your franchise quarterback for at least a very long time. This team, Commanders are not good even with Jaden Daniels. Their defense is awful. I think this is a spot where even if it's at the Commanders, we saw the Commanders just get their asses kicked at home at the hands of the Seahawks. I think this line is huge. I'm gonna go Lions minus 10.5. I think it might be that big without Jaden Daniels.
Okay, I want to do a little bonus guess the line. Guess what it opened at as well. Give me what you think it opened at.
Ooh.
Obviously, it opened before Jaden Daniels went down with his gruesome arm injury, so he would be playing. What do you think it opened at to go on top of your 10.5?
So I'm guessing when you say this line opened, we're talking beginning of the season when the Commanders probably thought that they still had a pretty good defense, or Vegas thought they still had a good defense. I think that at the beginning of the season, it's probably Commanders that are favored, just being at home, coming off an NFC Championship game, probably like Commanders minus like 1.5.
Yeah, so I don't know when this is just labeled as open, so I don't know if that was beginning of the season when the Commanders were expected to be better, whether that was just like last week. I don't know when this opened at, but this has opening at Detroit minus 3.5. So that leads me to believe it was some more of like middle of the season after the Commanders had started out really slowly. But no, you're very close to what the spread is at the moment. Right now, after the Jaden Daniels injury, is Detroit minus 9.5. So very close to what you were thinking, not quite as large. Scares me a little bit because we're just coming off a game that was 8.5, and at some places I saw it at 9.5, and we lost outright. But Detroit minus 9.5 going into the Commanders game.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at my show notes, and I actually think that I wrote this same exact sentence for the Vikings preview. All I have written is we should kick the shit out of this team. And so, yeah, it didn't work at all. We actually got the shit kicked out of us against the Vikings. But I think this is, firstly, it's a must win. Like, if you lose this game, the season, in my opinion, might as well be over. I know it's not. I know if you're 5-4, you still have a lot of season ahead of you, but this is a borderline must win, especially, if the Commanders somehow pull this out of their ass, it'd be miraculous. But I think it'd be so backbreaking to the Lions. So must win, huge favorites on the road, but 9.5 point favorites there against a backup quarterback, Marcus Mariota. You got to take care of business. You got to get this win.
Yeah, this is for me. I put a lot of time thinking about this game. Unfortunately, I think this is almost a lose-lose in some sense. If I really want to be if you listen to our show before, if you watched this, Kyle usually is more the optimist. I'm more the pessimist here. I'm almost thinking this is a little bit of a lose-lose because you come out and you lose this game, like you mentioned. Like the season, in my opinion, is pretty much you're on life support there. You might be able to squeak something out, but like that's terrible. It is horrendous. You lose this game. If you win this game, I think a lot of people are going to point to it, and it's going to be kind of like we're still okay. Like, look, if we win demandingly in a insane fashion, I think people are going to point to that and be like, oh, the offense is fine. Like, and I think that's going to kind of hide up some flaws that were uncovered over the last few weeks. So in a sense, I think it's a lose-lose. But I agree 100% with you. Like, this is an absolute must-win, which is something that. It's not a game we expected to be like this because of the beginning of the season. Like the Commanders were expected to be better. But the Lions are going to be without quite a few key players. So we mentioned during the review section of the show, Christian Mahogany went down with a knee injury. It does not sound like it's going to be season ending, but at a minimum, he's likely to be out a month. ESPN has his return estimated date of December 4th. Dan Campbell wouldn't agree or say whether it's going to be even longer or whatnot. He's going to be out at least very minimum of the next few games. You have Kirby Joseph, who's been questionable. He was out the last few weeks. I think he's going to be coming back. But the other two main guys that we may or may not be with this Sunday is you have Taylor Decker, who went down with an injury. That's actually a different injury that he's been battling over the last few weeks. Again, he's been really struggling in general. So Maybe he can use a week off and kind of get right and get healthy. But the other guy, Penei Sewell, you mentioned it. He went down with an injury. Both him and Decker were mentioned that they are not long-term injuries, but Dan Campbell will not confirm whether they're going to be playing. They did not practice today. So it is very much in the air that they may or may not be there this upcoming Sunday, which is just gonna be huge. An offensive line that already was struggling at full health, and now, I mean, what three? That's three out of the five starters on
That's
the
three out
offensive
of five.
line that are going to be either not there or they're going to be banged up pretty badly. So like this is it. The Lions are battling some injuries here on the offensive side, which is not actually something we've had to deal with a whole bunch in the Dan Campbell era. It's always a defense that's decimated.
Yeah, this is brutal, and like this is the last thing that you need is the offensive line to be decimated. I feel like there's other positions where the lines are a lot deeper, and it's definitely not an offensive line. So yeah, I do think it's a game. Again, you're playing a backup quarterback, you're playing a team that is just licking its wounds, it's reeling right now, and they're talking about maybe firing their coach, or is he the guy? So yeah, I think if there was ever a game where you could give Penei Sewell another week off, or a week off versus rushing him back, and give Taylor Decker another week off because he's missed a few games. I think this is the game to do it. I'm definitely not rushing back Penei Sewell. I know he's the type of guy where if he has one leg, he's gonna play on one leg. But I know like we just got to tell the big fella, like we have aspirations for the rest of the season, and they absolutely revolve around you being at right tackle. We cannot win without you. So this is definitely not a spot where I want to rush back Penei Sewell. Get healthy, big guy. And yeah, this team, I just think that whoever they throw out at right tackle, at left guard, I think they are going to be able to run the ball. And this is a big bounce back spot for Gibbs. And yeah, he's gonna feast on this Commies defense that gives up almost 380 yards per game. They rank 28th in the league. So yeah, don't want to rush back any of those injuries. I think that this is a spot where the Lions are going to be able to do whatever they want, regardless of who's that offensive line.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. It's just two very different teams than we saw last year in the playoffs, right? Both those teams were fantastic last year. We definitely underestimated the Commanders, and they came and kicked our ass. But like both were two very formidable teams. Lions reeling in a way. Commanders, obviously, the season's already gotten away from them. So very different games. And you look at the defense for the Commanders, just like kind of lining them up against the Lions. Their leading their sack leader at the moment. He is with 5.5. It's Armstrong on the defensive end. Armstrong, he's out in IR, so they already don't have their leading sack defender. Frankie Louvu, the linebacker, who's one of the star linebackers for that defense, he's actually suspended for his third or fourth hip drop tackle, which is a thing the NFL is really implementing this year, trying to avoid injuries to ankles and the legs in a gruesome fashion when you do that hip drop tackle. So he's suspended for this game because he did another one last week. So that will definitely help us. Marshawn Lattimore, who is having a terrible season in general, but he is on the IR with a knee injury. So like the Commanders are really banged up, and even when they are healthy, they're coming in having lost 4 games in a row. So like I agree with you. It's not something we should be really concerned about based on all their injuries. But maybe I just have a little bit of PTSD from them last year and the way the Lions have been playing this past few weeks. I guess I'm just a little bit nervous. I definitely am not taking them against the spread, the Lions and the spread. I'll probably, hit a money line or something, but I'm not taking them 9.5.
It's interesting because the Lions are so good against the spread in the Dan Campbell era, and they're really good coming out of a loss too. So I think those two factors combined, I might be considering the spread, even though the lack of guys at offensive line is it's concerning for sure. But yeah, I feel like this is definitely a get right game, and also I feel like we've been saying that so much this season, which is depressing. At certain points you can't keep getting right. At certain points you're cooked. So yeah, hopefully this is the last get right game for at least a really long time. But yeah, I just you gotta trust Dan Campbell against the spread. He's typically very, very good. But yeah, anything else on the offensive side before we jump into the defense?
No. So just looking at the overall numbers, you went through some of the numbers for the defense, or for the Commanders defense, I should say, our offensive side. They're right in the middle. The Washington defense is right in the middle, more towards the back of the pack, 22, and opponents' points per game, averaging 26.2 points per game, and that's with a healthy defense, like we mentioned. Their defense is kind of decimated at the moment, so no, I'm not overly concerned with it. They were old last year. I think they were kind of caught lightning in a bottle with their defense last year and how well they played, and I think it's kind of coming back to bite them in the ass a little bit this year. So no, let's jump over to the offensive side for the line. The defensive side for the Lions, excuse me.
Yeah, let's look at the Lions defense, the Commies offense. So I guess looking at the Commanders first, they rank 16th in total offense. They average 330 yards per game. But a lot of that is Jane Daniels too. Granted, he has missed a few games this season already, but without Jane Daniels, he adds so much of the a dynamic presence to this offense. So without that, they definitely struggle. They struggle to pass the ball. Even with him, they definitely struggle to pass the ball. They're better on the ground. A lot of those rushing yards are actually from Jaden as well on his legs. So yeah, with it'll be Marcus Mariota at quarterback. Again, he has already seen some run at quarterback this season. He's not bad, even though he's got to be getting up there in age. He's not a bad backup quarterback. I think he's certainly better than any backup the Lions have right now. But yeah, I think big game plan. If you stop the run, and this is a Commanders team that has struggled to run the ball, but if you stop that, if you make Marcus Mariota beat you with his arm, he just can't. So and you look at the spread, you know exactly why.
Yeah, I think Mariota fits their system pretty well as a backup because he's, in a sense, he's a very similar QB to the style that Jane Daniels is. One thing that their Washington offense does really well is they're really efficient in the red zone. So they're second in the NFL in red zone scoring percentage, just specifically touchdowns only, so not including field goals. They're second with 77% conversion rate when they're in the red zone to scoring touchdowns. Obviously, a lot of that has to do with Jaden Daniels. He's fantastic in the red zone because you have to be concerned about his legs and escaping the pocket and getting in the end zone. Hitting for the corner and scoring there. So they're a fantastic red zone offense, but that's with Jaden Daniels. With Marcus Mariota, a lot of these numbers that we're throwing out there, you can kind of throw them to the wayside because it's a completely different team with a backup like that. And they're already on their backup running backs. Austin Eckler went down. They have their rookie, Bill. I don't even remember his last name. Who's been okay. Deebo Samuel. Yeah. It's difficult to predict the matchups and everything for this game just because you're going up against a backup. But in theory, the Lions defense should be a lot better. You have guys that are expected to come back. It was maybe questionable to get guys back last week, like Marcus Davenport. He obviously wasn't ready to go. There's a chance you can get him back for this week. We already mentioned Kirby Joseph, likely will be back this week. So our defense is getting even healthier at the moment. And on top of the Commanders' offense being the opposite, getting less healthy and more injured. So it all lines up to be a get-right game, like you said, but I just can't keep saying that anymore.
Yeah, I think we'll see it on Sunday. It's Sunday night. Is this a Sunday night football game?
No, this is a 4:25 game.
Oh, okay. I think it's got to be. I heard something. Maybe it's game of the week, Fox game of the week, whatever it is. Yeah, I think it's a semi primetime game. But yeah. Regardless, man. I totally get what you're saying. Even if we do play really well, it's kind of a lose-lose because this Commanders team is so horrible, but you play who you play. So yeah, if you got to kick the shit out of them to try to get right, I think you got to do it.
Yeah, and I guess in saying that, I just fear throughout the entire Tigers season, going back to baseball, we were winning a whole bunch, and that was masking a lot of the deep down, the rooted issues with the team. And a lot of people, a lot of fans, the organization will point to the record and be like, look, we're winning. We're not bad, we're winning. But then you look at the numbers and you're like, well, a lot of these numbers are inflated. There's real flaws and issues with these teams. And so that's why I'm like, I think it's a lose-lose because if we kick the shit out of them, organization's going to be like, see, we're still good. We're still on track for a Super Bowl. And a lot of fans are going to be like, all right, we're back. But then you dig deeper in the rooted issues with this team and the flaws, and then obviously the other side, if you lose, it's a literal lose, and the season, like I said, is on life support. So yeah, but in that case, obviously, I'll still take us kicking the shit out of them. It'll be nice to have a legit get right game if we can get one.
Yep, got to take care of business.
Yep. All right, so let's get to. We want to do in between the lines real quick, and then we will get to our new segments, and then finish up the show with some grit of the week.
Yeah, let's do it. You want to kick us off?
Yeah, I will kick us off because I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with I put some thought about this. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out who of the last week's game really struggled and is going to bounce back and take advantage of this injured Commanders team. Like I'm trying to figure out who is the most deserving of it. And I think it's going to end up being our defensive line, who actually didn't struggle that much last week against the Vikings. Like we mentioned, we went through the numbers. They actually had a pretty good day. But I think in a sense, they were a little more quiet than I expected. I think the Vikings offensive line was a little injured, and we should have taken advantage a little more, maybe a few more sacks. I'm going to say my in between the lines is going to be Hutch against this Commanders offense. I think he's going to likely put a lot of pressure on Marcus Mariota. I think Marcus Mariota is similar to Jane Daniels, in which he's very mobile, but I think Hutch kind of excels in that. And like a lot of times the QBs can be flushed out, and Hutch is right there. So I'm going to say my in between the lines. The matchup that I'm looking forward to the most is going to be Aiden Hutchinson going up against the backup Marcus Mariota.
Nice, dude. Yeah, he's gonna feast, man. And he played well against the Vikings. He plays well every game he plays. He's just that's why he's one of the best defensive ends in the league. Yeah, wouldn't be surprised if I saw more than one sack out of Hutch. Maybe a strip sack there too. So yeah, get ready, Marcus Mariota. Yeah, my between the lines, I'm gonna go with Jahmyr Gibbs, man. This is a kid, obviously prolific, coming off of what can only be called his worst game as a Lion, right? Like I need to go back and see if maybe, when he was a rookie, he maybe got 4 or 5 carries. But yeah, as being, from being the bell cow, or at least like, a centerpiece in this Lions run game, this is easily his worst game that he's played. 9 carries, 25 yards. Granted, not all on him. Play calling was bad. Offensive line was horrendous. So I'm not really blaming Gibbs, but I will say, yeah, 2.8 yards per carry is very un-Gibbs like. So I'm definitely looking at him. Can he produce against a banged up Commanders team? Can he produce against with a Lions offensive line that's probably down 3 starters? That's gonna be a big one for me. I think the answer is yes, but I'm certainly keen to watch it.
It's almost like a match. It's almost like a matchup within our own Lions team. It's like, how is Jahmyr Gibbs going to match up with the offensive line that we're able to put in front of him?
Yeah, dude, 100%. I think if there's anyone who can make magic out of literally nothing and no holes, it's definitely Gibbs. So yeah, I think he's certainly up for the task, and in a bounce back game for sure. Like he's gonna feast, man. They're gonna give him the ball early and often.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I love that. So let's get to our newest segment. We're gonna roll this new segment into another topic that we're gonna be combining here. Before we do that, you have some words from a sponsor.
Yeah, let's do it. So this segment is brought to you by Distill Union. Distill Union crafts sleek, problem-solving essentials like wallets and key organizers designed with a less is more philosophy. Their durable, intuitive products simplify everyday routines with style. Our listeners can get 20% off any one product with promo code GRIT. That's GRIT at distillunion.com. Shout out Distill Union.
So our newest segment here, if you recall back, I think it was for the Tigers season. I think it was the Tigers trade deadline. We introduced our new segment, the Motor City Crash Out. It's not going to be that aggressive, this segment, but this new segment we're going to call just Overreaction Wednesdays. Just our overreactions that we're taking, whether it's from a game that we just saw over the weekend, whether it's from some sort of other playoff or whatever it is. Overreaction Wednesday. My overreaction from this is going to be just, I'm worried for this team. We talked about this team in general, and I kind of alluded to it when we were talking about the review from the Vikings game, but I'm having this overreaction in which like this offense just was really more reliant on Ben Johnson than we thought. Like I said to start the show, we kind of throughout the beginning of the season, we're sticking it to Ben Johnson, being like, we didn't need you, and I think we needed him a lot more than we have thought over the last few weeks. And then on top of that, the trade deadline, if you're listening to this on Wednesday when we release it, this was yesterday. We're recording Tuesday night, so the trade deadline was just a few hours ago. My overreaction was, why the hell did we not go out and fortify this offensive line, or even this secondary or this defensive line, one of those 3 position groups that have struggled so much and are constantly injured? We went out and didn't do anything about that. And so my overreaction was the combination of Johnny Morton being absolutely inept at play calling and being worse than we actually think he is, and the compounding that with the injuries and the lack of trade deadline movements. My overreaction Wednesday is that we are honestly on a week-to-week basis now. Any game that we lose is going to basically be one more nail in the coffin, and I only think we have maybe 2 more nails in this coffin before our playoff hopes are on life support.
Yeah, dude. Might be an overreaction. That's what this segment's all about, though. Dude, my overreaction Wednesday is that not only just, Brad Holmes and the Lions, but that just any Detroit sports, GM or president in general is just will never make another trade for as long as we live, as long as we're breathing. They're not gonna make any more deals at the deadline. They haven't done it. I mean, when's the last time we've made a big splash at the deadline? Like I don't at this point, I don't think it's ever happened. Like it's crazy, man. And obviously I know it has if you look back enough in history, but like, yeah, between the rebuilds and then even now all these Detroit sports are, on the up and coming or competing, or in the Lions case, quote unquote, one of the best in the league, although I haven't seen it this year. And yet they still refuse to go all in. They still refuse to make trades. You look at teams like the Eagles who, time and time again, Howie, their GM, their president is going out and getting more guys. He's, he sees value in guys, depth pieces, maybe not necessarily home runs, but huge time pieces. Guys like Jalen Phillips from the Dolphins, who I thought would look pretty good in Honolulu blue to add a little bit of depth to our edge rushers. And yep, lo and behold, Brad Holmes, yeah, we're sticking with our guns once again. Time and time again, we know what we have in the locker room. We have guys, and we're just gonna stick with them. Dude, I mean, did you not see last season? Like we're thin. We're super thin. We're one injury away on the edge from being decimated, and that's never a good thing when you're one injury away. This is the NFL. The injuries happen like all the fucking time. If Brad Holmes, if you haven't seen that yet, so yeah, man, probably an overreaction. Also, probably not.
I think maybe, yeah, mine was definitely an overreaction. Like I said, that our season's on life support with every loss that comes through. But yours definitely, I think yours is extremely warranted. We're not asking to go out and trade for Myles Garrett. We're not asking to go out and trade. There actually were some decently sized guys that got dealt this trade deadline, and we're not asking to go out and do that. You mentioned Jalen Phillips. He's maybe on the bigger side, the side of more of a blockbuster. I wouldn't. He's obviously not a huge blockbuster, but he's a name that would definitely help a defense. That would have been great, but even like smaller than that, you look at like offensive line guys, and I know offensive linemen aren't dealt at the trade deadline like Skittles. Like they're kind of few and far between. It's not very often they're moved. But you look at Andrew Wiley, 31 years old from the Commanders, who's going to be coming to Detroit on Sunday, or we're going to be going to him on Sunday. Like, why couldn't we just trade him? And then he would have played against his old team. 31 years old, since 2023, he's played 38 games, had 1 sack allowed, 7 penalties against. He spent time at right tackle. He spent time at right guard. He spent time at left guard. He's a rental, meaning he's on his final year of his contract. Why? He's not a long-term piece. We don't have to worry about paying him. He's a rental. Why wouldn't you at least? And maybe they did. Who knows if they actually called him? But why couldn't we have got that done? You look at Wyatt Teller from the Browns, 30 years old. He would be more of a piece of this core, this team, I think, and being only 30 years old. But he was a rental too. Like, you don't have to worry about paying him if you don't want him to. On that same Cleveland Browns offensive line, Joel Bitonio, 34 years old, Browns, 7-time Pro Bowler, a PFF grade of 74.9, which was 9th out of 104 qualified guards. He's also a rental. So like, these aren't guys that like you can point to them and be like, well, yeah, we have to pay our guys, so we can't take on those contracts. It's like, well, no, these guys are all rentals. And the other kind of side of that, I would say, like, if you're saying like, oh, well, we don't want to give up draft capital to get these guys for 1 year. You look at the Eagles, what the Eagles did. A lot of times these guys, you trade for them, they go out and they play for you for the rest of the year. If they don't sign here, if you don't end up retaining them, you get a compensatory pick. So it's like, yeah, okay, maybe that pick isn't as good as the one that you gave up to get them, but you're getting a half a year out of them. You're trying to take advantage of your Super Bowl window, and you're not going to come away empty-handed if you don't end up re-signing him. So like, why? I just don't get it. It's frustrating. You've heard it. Everyone has heard us talk about this before. It's every single team. Unfortunately, you got the Lions, who have never been this good before. They don't know exactly how to react in the situation. You got the Pistons, who have a first-time GM and president of basketball operations. So he's sort of new and still trying to figure this out. And then the only guy that technically has a little bit of experience in this. I guess the only 2 guys that have experience in this realm of building teams and being a part of championship teams, Steve Eiserman, who is just as frugal as they come, and Chris Ilitch, who is even more frugal and only cares about the business side of it. So yeah, that's our overreaction Wednesday. It's just nice to vent a little bit.
Yeah, I feel better. I still don't feel great, but I feel a little bit better. So I think that worked.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get into our grit of the week, and then we will start wrapping up the show. Before we do, Grit of the Week is brought to you once again by Pins and Aces. Pins and Aces is a Colorado-based golf brand making premium polos, head covers, and gear that perform on the course and stand out everywhere else. All this stuff is made in the USA and has quality that you can really feel. You can enjoy a discount exclusive to our listeners with our promo code GRIT at pinsandaces.com. That's promo code GRIT at pinsandaces.com, pinsandaces.com. Again, the holiday seasons are coming up. You get your loved ones some more golf attire. Go to Pins and Aces. Use our promo code for 21% off any product. Thank you, Pins and Aces, for always sponsoring Grit of the Week. I will start us off with our Grit of the Week, and I have to go with our guy, my guy. I'm at some point we'll do another Mount Rushmore of like Detroit athletes, just overall stars you want to see. We did that, I think like over a year ago maybe. We're gonna have to revisit that at one point because this guy is. I mean, he's right there, top there, and on my 1A, 1B, and right up there with Tarek Skubal, but is Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham is having an amazing start to the season. He started a little bit slow from the three-point range, but this past week, he has been absolutely on fire. He has 3 back-to-back games in which he took over and basically won us the game. He just tied his season high last night with scoring 33 points. He, at one point, for 2 games, he had a 28-1 assist-to-turnover ratio. 28-1 for a guy that has been struggling with turnovers in his career. 28-1 assist-to-turnover ratio is insane. Right now, he's at 36 and 4 assist-to-turnover ratio. He is just wheeling and dealing. His three-point shots coming along. In the fourth quarter, he is absolutely taking games over. In the fourth quarter, he has 67 points, which is first in the NBA, 43% on three-point range, 12 assists, 3 turnovers, is a plus 41. And again, on a current 36-4 assist-to-turnover ratio in his last 3 games, Cade Cunningham, just another Grit of the Week to throw on your mantle there.
Dude, hell yeah. Dude, Cade's the best. I had Cade as well for Grit of the Week. Just absolutely carrying in the fourth quarter last night, 2 nights ago, as you're listening to this on Wednesday, but against the Grizzlies, just big time bucket after big time bucket on the offensive side, obviously, but also on the defensive side, just getting busy. He said huge blocks this season. The block on what was it? Jalen Suggs was just one of the best blocks that I've seen in a really long time. That was last week, but yeah, he can do everything. He's just majestic. He's awesome. My favorite Pistons player by far. Probably your favorite as well. Like he's incredible. I will say if you're giving it to Cade, just to give a little extra shout out to someone else, maybe like a half Grit of the Week. Beef Stew Isaiah Stewart has played very good this season. Last night's game in his starting role, he's been coming off the bench a little bit. Started last night's game, 34 minutes, 26 points. He had 14 total rebounds, 4 assists as well. Made a couple threes. He's shooting 40% from 3 on the season. His jump shot just looks so much more smooth than it has in years past. He hasn't been a bad shooter in years past, but it certainly has not been a strong suit for him, and he's definitely getting better in that regard. So yeah, 40% from 3. I mean, you take that all day and twice on Sunday. From a guy like Beef Stew. Love what I see from him at the power forward when you have him and Duren and Stew being able to space the floor a little bit more. So yeah, just an extra gold star Grit of the Week for Beef Stew as well on top of Cade. It's
so funny that you're giving that to him because as you were going through your talking about Cade before you even got to Beef Stew, I was pulling up numbers for another guy because I was also going to give a little half Grit of the Week, a little shout out to a guy, not Beef Stew though, although he is very deserving of it. I was going to give it to Jalen Duren because Jalen Duren has played amazing this season. We talked about him when the Pistons season started last year. First half of the season, he came on really slowly. Second half of the season, he really turned it around and played really well. He has just absolutely continued that this season, showing that, when we talked about neither him nor Jaden Ivey getting extensions, I said that Jalen Duren is likely going to be the one that we kind of kick ourselves for, and I think he's going to end up being here long term. The past 3 games, he's had 14 points and 9 rebounds. And the game before that, he had 33 points and 10 rebounds. The game before that, he had 21 points and 13 rebounds. He's just playing out of his mind. His defense has been pretty good. He's been playing out of his mind. And I love that you mentioned Beef Stew because we have a few minutes here. We're going to end a little bit early, but I'd love to jump into this for just a second. The Beef Stew running at the 4, starting for Tobias Harris against the Grizzlies last night. That was a project and an idea in which we could run Beef Stew at the 4, be kind of that stretch big, and then Jalen Duren at the 5. that was a kind of a failed experiment because they asked him to essentially stop shooting threes. He shot a good amount of threes, really made progress 2 years ago, and then they kind of asked him to stop, and he just really didn't shoot any threes at all last year. And with his lack of shooting threes, you couldn't play him at the four, at the stretch four, and it just didn't work. He's back to shooting threes, like you said, shooting 40%. That lineup of Kate at the one, Isaiah at the four, Jalen Duren at the five, that's got some legs that could make some real difference because he is a monster defending the rim as well. You throw in Asar Thompson, who's a monster in the transition, can be a second ball handler, and is an insane defender. I'm all about this this Pistons season. And I just have to note, Malik Beasley went on Snapchat today, said he is back in Detroit. He straight up said, if I come back and play in the NBA, it will be for the Pistons. I had my best times in Detroit. I can't talk to them, but my agent can. They're trying to wrap things up. He said, if I play back in the NBA, I will be coming to Detroit. You get Malik Beasley on this team, and the East is ours. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, definitely hoping for that big time. We love Beasley. You know, he's one of our favorite players last year. It's interesting because I think the NBA still has an open investigation on him, right? So I don't know how that works. I'm pretty sure he can't sign right now, right? Are they still investigating him?
They are. Essentially, it is. No one's really sure why it's still open. He's been cleared by the FBI, and out of nowhere, they reopened investigations. But then he was also cleared by them at some point. So it seems like it's on the last few phases of like getting him cleared, and I think his agent is still talking with the team. He just can't do anything until they figure it out, whatever it is they're doing.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you look at this lineup, and it is good. It's freakishly athletic. Definitely need more shooters. So having Malik Beasley in this lineup is, I mean, it's going to be incredible. Just want to give one more shout out, Ronnie Holland. You know, just coming off the bench last night, 14 points, 5 of 8 shooting. He's been a spark plug. He's had some good games coming off the bench. And one more thing, can someone teach Asar Thompson how to shoot a free throw? Because 1 of 6 at the line last night. He can't shoot free throws, and he hasn't been able to his entire career. So I would like to see that fixed, if I may.
You may. Hopefully it works on that. But yeah, that was a fun little impromptu Pistons thing. We didn't have that on the show notes, but I could talk Pistons till I'm blue in the face. So I'm glad we were able to squeeze that in right around the grid of the week. I think we ended up giving grid of the week essentially to 4 different Pistons players, and then gave Asar some homework. So I'm glad we were able to do that.
Real quick housekeeping, we talked about the Pistons 5-2, 4th place in the East, playing really well. Just want to give a shout out to the Red Wings, and we will break down the Red Wings more as the season goes on. Unfortunately, we just didn't have a ton of time today, but Wings are rolling too. 9-4, 18 points, tied for first in the Atlantic. And you got guys like Dylan Larkin who are just they're playing just at an incredible clip right now. I think Larkin has 10 goals, 8 assists, 18 points on the season. So yeah, he's rolling. Wings are rolling. Love what I see there.
It's a fun time in Detroit. If we can just get one of these teams over the hump at least once, it'll be a blast. So, all right, that's our show. Thank you guys for tuning into this week's episode. You can find both Kyle and I on Twitter at Kyle_Marino and myself at Dutton_Tyler. You can follow the podcast itself on Instagram or TikTok at Gridiron Report, on Twitter at Gridiron Report 1, or you can watch us on YouTube at Gridiron Report. Finally, you can join the conversation next week by calling into the Gridiron Report voicemail for us to play and discuss on the podcast. That phone number is 313-679-3939. And then if you like this episode, please take a moment to rate it 5 stars. Leave us a nice little review saying you enjoyed it. Follow us on all forms of social media. We just released our blind rankings of jerseys that Kyle did last week with visuals and stuff. So go take a look at those jerseys. Still doing the best wings in Detroit. A tour went to Sweetwater, one of the most famous Detroit wing places in the area. Have a few more lined up for as we get into the second half of the season. So be following us on all forms of social media so you can follow along with those series. Thank you guys for listening.
Thanks, y'all. Restore the roar.
Journey roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retire. Grit iron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on blast, beats thundering loud. Champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The Gridiron Report where the stories are proud. Tune in, bring the heat, make your fandom a vow.